Hello, everybody. My name is Alexandra Butnaru. I'm the speaker
Hello.
today. And with me, there's another team of teachers, trainers, and the main ones are Dana Podaru and Oana Mardaloescu, who also worked or have worked with Twinkle Star. And what I'm going to do now, just because there are quite a few of us, and because if there's background noise, then you won't be able to understand what I'm saying, I'm going to mute all of you. But if you click on the microphone, if at some point you want to say something, you can unmute yourselves. All right, this is just for things to run smoothly. All right, so welcome to our first webinars. As you probably know, we've prepared 3 webinars so far, and we're working on others because all of us are dealing with a new challenge, which is online teaching for we don't know how long. So today, the workshop, the webinar today, focuses on introductory concepts and getting used to the change, like how do we cope with the changes we have to implement in our classes. The ones happening tomorrow, the webinars happening tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, will be more technical. I'll tell you more at the end. I'd also like to tell you a few things about me. So I work with Twinkle Star. I've been working there since I started teaching in 2012. And I'm a teacher coordinator now and teacher trainer. And I'm also class coordinator with an international NGO called Language Beyond Borders. Actually, this is how I started learning about online teaching 2 years ago. And this NGO focuses on what it does. It connects teachers, English teachers from all over the world with people affected by conflict, like refugees, and they do online one-to-one or group classes together. And it was then when I started, in a way, trusting the power of online teaching, because I met people and I worked with people I would never have met in face-to-face. Okay, so this is a bit about me. Now, my plan for today, in the 50 minutes we have, is to discuss the main differences, and we're going to work together. It's going to be quite interactive. Differences between face-to-face or teaching in a traditional classroom and remote teaching. Then we're going to talk about problems, new problems, which come up when we teach online. I'm going to share a few tips which will help you get used to the new teaching environment. And then there's another matter which I think is key during these months, we don't know, weeks, which is teacher self-care, which is often neglected. I mean, it should be important even for face-to-face lessons, but in this new context, I think it has even, I mean, we should emphasize it a bit more. Okay, so hopefully the aims will be achieved. Okay, now I have a question for all of you, and I'd like you to share with us in the chat box, like, what experience do you have with online teaching? Have you taught before? You haven't. How did it go for you? I'm just curious because I would like to know your background, your level. Oh, Kahoot. Kahoot is a good app. And students love it. Edmodo, nice. Excellent. So I see some of you have quite a lot of experience. I mean, you've tried tools, you taught online. Not all of you, which is not a problem. This is why we're delivering these webinars, to support each other, because we're learning too. So we'd like to share with other teachers what we've learned and to learn from them too. Now that you mentioned Skype, and we were talking before starting the meeting about choosing Zoom over Skype. We're going to explore a lot of Zoom, or essential Zoom features tomorrow. And it's true that it's one of the most popular video conferencing apps at the moment. It's more reliable and more user-friendly than Skype. As in, anyone can connect. You don't need to add other contacts and so on. Okay. Okay, 4 days ago, yeah. Well, our teachers started teaching online. I can't remember the date, but it was a Monday, the Monday before this one, yeah, 2 weeks ago. And it's been really stressful, and we've had mini webinars every day and meetings to test things. And it's impressive how much teachers can progress in terms of technology in a very short amount of time. Excellent, thank you. If you have anything you'd like to share, any useful links and so on, please feel free to use the group chat. We're going to save the chat as a document at the end, and we can send it to you too. Okay, great. Now, before I start with the teaching bits, I'm going to use a word I'm not very fond of, which is inspirational. And I'd like to share with you 2 short conversations I had with 2 quite different people. So the first one was John, who's a friend of mine, and we normally teach together at the University of Birmingham in the UK during summers. We don't know about this summer anymore. But the first time when I met him, he asked me, so what do you teach? And it was my first year, so I said, I teach business and management English. What about you? And he said, I teach students. And I mean, this sentence echoed in my head, and that's why I called it inspirational in a way, because it made me realize that, oh, yeah, it's the students, it's the humans that are involved in this process that are important, and their needs. And their needs might be improving English skills, might be passing exams, but it's still their needs that matter the most. And this goes really well with all related to teaching, let's say. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's online or face-to-face. Students are still the people we focus on. So, and we work for, and we do our best to meet their needs and to support them in their learning journey. Now, the second sentence I exercise for the future is from one of the students from Language Beyond Borders, who's also a friend of mine now. And he's been a refugee for 7 years now, and he spent 6 years in offshore detention, which is some sort of prison for refugees. Now, what impressed me about him was that he would, despite struggling with everything, he would support his friends and people there a lot, and he would exercise every day. And at some point we were talking about this, and I was saying, oh yeah, exercise is healthy, it helps with your I don't know, mental well-being, physical well-being, and so on. And he said, you know why I actually exercise? It's not for now, it's not necessarily to keep myself busy. It's because at some point I'll be free and I'll be older, and I want to be able to enjoy life then and to be healthy. And I thought, wow, what impressive resilience there is here. So, and what I took as a teacher, my lesson from this was, maybe I don't need this now, but I will need it at some point. So even when we don't have a crisis, I still think it's good to... Sorry, I'll meet you again. So even if we're not dealing with a crisis, it's still good to prepare. And this means reading articles, checking websites, and so on. We'll talk about this later on. But again, it's about not giving up. and I thought it was a great lesson, and it's worth bringing it here. Now, let's take a look at the next part. Now, even for online teaching, there are two types of learning/teaching. There's the asynchronous bit, which means students and teachers don't have to be at the same time in the room. And there's synchronous learning, which means, yeah, everybody's on Zoom, everybody's on Skype, everybody's in the same place together and they're interacting. So in a way, there is asynchronous learning happening even in the traditional classroom, when students do their homework, when they study on their own, and they have time to work more, to reflect more on the tasks and so on, or when they research topics on their own and so on. And then there's the synchronous bit in which we actually meet them face to face, which probably most of us kind of miss it now. At least that's what my colleagues are telling me, which involves interacting face to face. The responses are quick. Everything is immediate. It happens in real time. And in a way, when we talk about online teaching, we have to consider these both types of learning. So we have to think of solutions for synchronous learning, as in, some of you said, we're going to use Zoom. Some of us said, we are already using Zoom. We're looking for more options and so on and so forth. So for synchronous learning, there are different issues. Finding platforms, adapting the materials. You'll find it interesting that adapting the lesson plan is not as different to traditional teaching and so on. So that's a bit on synchronous learning. In terms of asynchronous learning, we might need different tools. Some of you mentioned Google Classroom. Some of you mentioned Edmodo. And they're all there, or Facebook groups, or WhatsApp groups, or anyway, there are other platforms and they could be approached differently. And the teacher doesn't need to be there all the time, but it needs to moderate the groups or the platforms. Okay. Today we're going to focus on online teaching in general, and this might include both types of e-learning, but with an emphasis on the synchronous one. Okay. Now, I made a list here of possible features, let's say, that might be similar when we teach in a real classroom or different when we teach online. Now, what I would like you to do is, can you write in the chat box? You can choose from my list. Is teacher knowledge different? Is the setting, is the way we plan the lesson? Are our aims, our learning aims different, or personal aims different? Resources, stakeholders, as in all the people involved, which might be school management, teachers, parents, students, the Ministry of Education, and so on. Anyway, all people involved. The problems we anticipate, the tools we use, the experience overall, the motivation on both student and teacher side. Which ones do you think are different when we teach online? And when, if you can think of anything else, feel free to write it in the box. I see motivation, planning, interaction, the experience. Quite true. Yes. Oh, discourse management. That's a good one. I'm going to add it to the slide in the future. Yeah. The feedback. Yes, resources to a certain degree.
Hello.
Hello.
I can hear you.
Great, thank you. I'm going just to mute you a bit because of the background noise, but feel free to unmute or yourself or to write in the chat box. Thank you. Okay, so Yeah, I mean, the choices you have focus mostly on setting, planning, resources, interaction, motivation, oh, and definitely tools. Yeah, let's take a look. So teacher knowledge, when it comes to teaching online, it's not that different in a way. I mean, our knowledge of methodology and language, they're still necessary. What happens is that we need to add some extra knowledge, which is designed for online teaching. Then now we do have options for training, for free training and so on. And I'll show you later on. But it means that we have to invest more time, more energy into this side. Yeah, we need some extra knowledge. The setting is different, that's true. So there, we can't meet students in class, we can't go close to them, we can't monitor in a way. But please bear in mind that, for example, Zoom and other e-learning platforms, they're designed to imitate the traditional classroom. Okay. So the setting is different, but to a certain extent. Think of, I don't know, maybe this is tricky, but think of, I don't know, a city main square during a festival and a Facebook viral post or something. And I do know Facebook and social media, they don't replace face-to-face interaction, but for many people, they compensate, and it can be a solution, but it can also turn into a problem. In terms of planning, like you said, number 3, that's kind of, that's right. So, oh, sorry, I'll go back. What happens is that the lesson structure might be the same in a way, with certain tweaks, and anyway, I'll show you later. But the time, it will take longer, and there will be some other parts we have to consider, as in, does Zoom work? Is my connection stable? And so on. So there are other things we have to consider. And also in terms of planning, okay, normally we'd have a course book and we'd think, okay, how do I adapt it? But it's still face-to-face. Now we have these course books, these materials, we still have the curriculum. How do we plan for it? It takes more time to find solutions. But what we have to keep in mind is that there are solutions, and we can do almost the same thing we do in a regular classroom online. So we kind of have to keep this kind of positive, creative mindset that we can adapt. Aims. I'm not sure anyone said aims, or I didn't see it, but it's true. I mean, in terms of learning aims for students, they're probably the same. For personal aims for teachers, as in, I would like to reduce my teacher talking time, well, they might have to be adjusted to the new context. And also, we might have to consider the fact that we don't know, I mean, it's harder to check online student engagement. It's harder to manage group work, teamwork, pair work, but not impossible. You'll see in our Zoom webinar tomorrow. Okay, in terms of resources, what you see on the screen now is a PowerPoint. I could also show you a website. I could share the screen with something else, which I will later. I could take a picture from the course book I'm using with my students, send it to my email, open it, and share that too. Or if I'm using a PDF version or an e-book, for example, again, I can share it and students can see it. Sometimes, I mean, in terms of resources, what's different in a way is that it's easier to find online resources for teaching English. There's so much out there that it's actually hard to choose. So the challenge is finding what we need, choosing from loads of resources, choosing the most effective ones, the ones that match our needs and our students' needs. Okay, stakeholders, kind of the same, but there might be more people involved. For example, we needed a lot of IT support lately. So that's a thing. There are new people involved in our process. As in, 2 weeks ago, we were quite confident with managing our students, our teaching, with our everything. But then we went online, and it wasn't necessarily an option. It was a necessity. So we had to do it. So we looked for people with different skills to help us get to the same place where we were before, as in good teachers, caring teachers, trained teachers, but now with some upgrades. Okay, in terms of anticipated problems, like normally we'd say students will probably struggle with irregular verbs if we're teaching past simple. Well, in this case, it might be students don't have a mobile, or students' connection is not stable and they can't hear me. Students' microphone doesn't work. My internet isn't stable today because of, and so on. Or I don't know how to do this, or students might not be able to understand my instructions, or etc., etc. There are new problems, and you're right about this. Yeah, and we'll see how to cope with them. Tools. We have to use the old tools and also some new ones, which makes things different, but not so different. And as teachers, I mean, our business is motivating people to grow, to develop their skills and knowledge, to, I don't know, to learn something new every day. So in this term, I think we're quite good at it, because all we have to do is teach ourselves what we teach our students. Stay curious, stay positive, stay motivated, and so on. Now, the interaction/experience will be different in some cases. For some students, and I'm saying this from my own experience, because I had some really, really nice feedback from students I taught these past weeks. So some students like it more because it's technology and they're finally allowed to stay in front of a screen. And since we can't fight this, since it's not an option, I suggest embracing it. So we're beyond screens are good and bad. We're beyond internet is safe, unsafe, addictive, non-addictive. We need to use it as a tool in our favor and in our students' favor. So for some students, the experience might be more pleasant. For some students, the fact that we can't meet at school might prevent them from accessing the experience. Because, for example, we work in a Cambridge exam and preparation center in Yash. Our students are mostly from Yash. They all have their own devices, parents are involved in their education, and so on. But if one is teaching in the country, and I know from my colleagues who also teach in the rural area, parents are already, I mean, they were struggling before with motivating parents to send their children to school. And it's even worse now because they think, oh, it's a holiday, so it's an opportunity for our kids to help us with agriculture chores, I don't know. So, but in this matter, and in the lack of resources and interest and collaboration, now, for this one, in public schools especially, we need some extra support, I think. And I mean official support, informing people that education is still necessary and it can still happen. And we're here, so we really want to make this happen. Yeah, again, so the thing is, most people have mobile phones and a smartphone nowadays. In Romania, especially, when it comes to mobile data. Like, if I tell you that I get, I don't know, for €6, I get more data and options in Romania than someone in Papua New Guinea, which is one of the poorest countries ever, get for €60. So in a way, we're privileged, but again, it's about people prioritizing. And trying to be creative in a way, or looking for a solution, not getting frustrated when people say, I can't do it, I don't have this option. Well, maybe someone in your family does, in your house does. Maybe someone can help. Maybe we can find, as a community, as a society, find solutions to reach even the people who don't have the necessary resources for online learning. And then it's motivation. Now, judging by the number of training options that have come up, and I'm not talking just about ours, I'll show you that there are many, about teachers offering to support other teachers, about sharing materials and ideas, and online presence, and the research teachers do online. On teachers' side, I think there is motivation, and that's key because we're in the front line here. And in terms of students, we have to think about it. Like I said, in our case, most students are more motivated now. They're happy they don't have to come to school. They come for free webinars. They come to do extra classes. They really enjoy it. Plus, they're bored because they're at home. And parents are happy at the same time because they can take a break. And also, they see their children keep learning. So some of these things are slightly different, some of them not. But I think the conclusion is kind of this. It's still us. It's still people who are able to learn new skills and to keep developing as teachers and keep up and change our approaches and learn new activities, new types of activities, discover new materials, and so on. For us, what's important right now, it's learning how to use different tools. And again, there's another important thing, the self-care bit, which I can't emphasize it enough. Okay. Now, let's see. Let's try something new on Zoom. We're going to practice it more tomorrow. But if you check your screen, top screen, bottom screen, don't panic if you can't find it. But if you're using a mobile, you should have something like board pen or an annotate button. So could you find your annotate button? Again, don't worry if you can't find it right now. You can write in the chat, or we'll practice more tomorrow. Could you tick the items we need in terms of tools for online teaching? You can write, you can choose there. When it comes to annotations on Zoom, there's a drawing option, like the bigger green tick you can see. There's a stamp option, like the smaller green tick you can see. And students love this feature, by the way. They can do tasks, tests, and so on. Yeah. Yeah, this is from a free online course on online teaching. I'll show it later where to find it. And yeah, you're right. We do need a computer or a laptop. I mean, it's way for synchronous learning, as in Zoom, Skype, group, Facebook chats, and so on. We need a good device, like a decent one, but we can't use just our mobile. Headset with microphone. Yes, it depends on how good the sound is. At the moment, I'm using my mobile earphones, which are not professional, but they are, apparently they work. Yeah, we need a stable internet connection, which is not always up to us. And again, compared to other countries like Italy, the UK, we do have a stable internet connection in Romania, hopefully. Platforms for teaching live, a whiteboard, and Zoom also has a whiteboard. I will show you tomorrow. Handouts, yes, in a way, but this time they could be emailed PDFs, but not real hands-on material. Yeah, so the virtual whiteboard, yeah, we'll show it to you tomorrow. Flashcards can still be used, as in paper flashcards. If they're big enough, we can use the camera to show them to young learners, or we can use pictures we find online as flashcards, or some resources. There are some apps and websites, and we're going to talk about them on Sunday. Okay, puppets with young learners, we might need a lot of energy. Yeah. Well, no board pens at least, so we can't complain. We can't find, or we run out of board pens. Yeah, we never run out of board pens on Zoom and on other platforms. And realia, like real things. I received lovely pictures from or screenshots from my colleagues, from the teachers in my team, with students showing their pets, bringing their pets in front of the camera and having a lesson about pets, with students bringing, I don't know, their favorite toy. And even teachers can use realia if possible. But yeah, they still work. People can see on the camera. Excellent. Yeah, so it depends on how we want to go about our lesson. We can use anything we want from this list. Okay. I'm going to clear all drawings, although they're beautiful. Thank you. And okay, we'll move on in a bit. Okay, now we were talking before about anticipating problems, and if you can think of anything else which is not on the list, feel free to type it. The first one, the first challenge, and we're really struggling with this, is tech issues. So Wi-Fi is less stable than a cable connection. Devices, we didn't care about how much space we had on our device, about how fast they were, but we might have to care now. And again, we don't have to buy things we can't afford, but it's a good idea to make sure that we are ready for online teaching. And an average laptop would do, or a regular PC, or yeah. And in emergency cases, even a phone. There are people who host Zumba classes with 80 participants on Zoom just by using their mobile phone. And then there's power cuts. Regarding all these problems, also, it's not written here, but we can add students not knowing how to connect, not knowing what buttons to press, parents being frustrated about them not knowing what buttons to press, us being stressed and frustrated about the same issues, because we're all humans. But what's important here, that is, we have to be nice to ourselves, to be patient, to accept the limits of technology. And like I said, technology gave me the opportunity when I was working in a very small community, for example, in Spain, and I missed joining a serious and professional community. Language Beyond Borders gave me that. And I made friends and I exchanged ideas with teachers from all over the world I've never met. And I didn't feel there was a problem with that. Now, it might take some time to adjust, and we all probably hope it's not going to take ages, but still, we don't know what is going to happen. So tech issues might also mean tech skills. It's very important that no matter what happens, oh, there's a nice comment with simultaneous classes happening at the same time. This is difficult. It's challenging. But like I was saying, it's okay for things not to work. There's nothing we can do about it. Therefore, we have to breathe deeply, smile, start again, try again. Try again as many times as it's necessary. It's important not to give up. And again, patience is key. Now, adapting materials. In terms of adapting materials, like I was saying, we could still be using the same course books. We could use pictures, or we could scan the pages we need, and maybe students have them too, as in our case, students have their course books at home with them, so we can still use them. Teacher and students can still use the traditional course books, but the teacher can choose to share, for example, the picture of a page they should be focusing on, and so on. Also, there are all sorts of tools, and we'll show you more about this on Sunday. And also, I'll tell you about a really good webinar about using course books in class, which is happening this afternoon. But I'll tell you at the end about the CPD opportunities. So materials can be adapted. All we have to keep in mind is when we have the aims in front of us, like this is what we want to teach today, this is what we want them to know. Okay, how do I do this online? What can I do? If it's too complicated, but it sounds really interesting, it's still possibly not a good idea to try it at the beginning. Until we feel comfortable with using technology and online platforms, I think a very good way of doing this is keeping it as simple as possible. Not wanting from ourselves to deliver the same engaging lessons or the same kind of creative writing lessons and so on as we did before. The third problem is our mindset. It's something I've heard a lot recently, and I'm not good with technology. Now, I'm not good with technology either. This is why I chose to teach English and not do programming. But what we have to do right now is not that complicated if we give it some time to study, to try, to, I don't know, to test them, to work with colleagues, with friends, and to help each other. And it's basically, we have to use some websites, some apps that were designed to be user-friendly and popular. So when let's say we try to test Zoom on our own, keep that in mind. It was designed to be used by millions of people. They could not have made it too complicated. We do not need to know coding or complex things to do it. We do not need to reinstall things, I don't know, Windows and on students' computers. So it's not that kind of high-level technology skills. We need to look for information, and there are loads of tutorials, and we need to watch videos and try it ourselves. The problem with technology is there's a certain point after which it doesn't matter how many things you hear from other people. Like, if you press that button, this is what it's going to do. If you press that button, this is what it's going to do. Because with technology is about us trying it ourselves. It's about saying, oh, what does this button do? It's that kind of attitude. And being aware that we can't break anything. Even if we press the wrong keys, we type the wrong text, it's fixable. Unless we pour, I don't know, coffee over the keyboard, which might be a serious problem. Okay, and I think that's the area in which I'm not good with technology, as in I spill liquids on it. Okay, but keep that positive, that growth mindset. It's a challenge, I can do it. Don't get scared by it. Stick to things you feel comfortable with doing in class and try them. Okay. About classroom management, tomorrow we'll show you that Zoom, like, for example, one of the problems in class and online is that if students talk at the same time, or if their parents talk behind them, which is so common, the host, the teacher, can't understand much. So the thing is, you can use the mute all feature and explain to them nicely, kindly, look, I can't understand what you're saying because you're speaking at the same time. So I'm going to unmute you and let's try to speak in turns. You can name students, they can name each other. They can show you, I mean, they can send you pictures of what they do. They can type in the chat so you know they're writing rules. Good idea, thank you. Yeah, so for example, we prefer to use the camera on in class just because we know our students are there and we know who we're talking to. Right now, because there are many of us and I was worried about how stable my internet connection is, I chose a setting on Zoom to switch off all participants' video, camera. If you want to join with video, you can do it. But I was thinking that it's not that essential right now. And again, you can do it with students. You can ask them to switch their microphones off or on, camera off or on. And there are other ways of doing it to show you their work and to so on, to do other things. There's also a pair work and group work, lovely feature on Zoom. But I think we're going to show it tomorrow if we don't have time today, because it's planned for tomorrow. So in terms of classroom management, it will be different. Students will show up late because either they're not punctual or they had problems connecting, and it's normal at first. In the first maybe 2 weeks, they'll struggle with that, and but they'll get used to it. Some of them got used to it faster than I did. So I'm quite positive about this, about students adapting to the new circumstances. There will be also parents. You'll probably have parents whispering the right answers, stressing your students. Like you ask a question and you can hear their dad saying, come on, answer now. No, this is not right. Don't say I have 10 years old. And yeah, students crying because sometimes they're stressed too. I mean, again, our attitude, us smiling, us showing them that we enjoy being there will help them relax too. It's kind of the same, but it's similar to the traditional classroom. They can still smell fear, frustration, anger, and so on. And a problem I haven't, I mean, we're still looking for solutions for is assessment. There are options for online assessment, but not in class maybe. So what we've done was share the test, for example, on the screen, and we'd gamify it, or we'd do it as a group activity, or anyway, so we could test if students prepared, or we could name them to see if they know the answers. But there is a difference with assessment. However, the form you completed, and one of my colleagues is preparing something really nice on that for tomorrow, the form you completed to register for the event could be turned into a test, and all their answers would be collected in the same spreadsheet. So you could create a Google form, again, on our list for tomorrow, Google form with on any topic you want. You collect their answers and you can still give them feedback. And there are other platforms, other tools which help teachers with delivering, or I don't know, online assessment activities. We'll see about that. You'll find out more tomorrow. But as you see, it's a bit like if they copy in class, some of them will probably Google the right answers. But who knows? Maybe using Google is actually a good skill. It saved me in a lot of situations. Okay, so these would be the 4 main problems. I like the rules idea. You said students understand that the situation is different. They've been, most of them, in self-isolation for days now. So they do know it's difficult. They do know you're human. And for example, one thing they appreciate is honesty. When I say, oh, I can't find the button, I have a student saying, oh, it's check the bottom left of the screen. I say, oh, I forgot what I want to do. It's okay, teacher, it's okay, breathe. So we're human, and they are too. Timer, still a very good idea. Set a timer for management so they don't digress too much. The pair work and the group work feature I was telling you that Zoom has a monitoring feature, so the teacher can actually see what each pair or group is doing or talking about. Sometimes they just go to the bathroom. Now you know. Yes, there's a question there with the platform for students, and yes, platform for students with no email. Zoom is good. Although I know we have had parents saying that they don't have an email address, but nowadays for any app you need to install, for Facebook, which most people use on their mobile at least, my nanny included, they do need an email address. So maybe they forgot about it. They also need this will take some energy too. You need to motivate them to try, not to give up, not to say, I'm not good with technology, I don't have an email address. Then could you please maybe make one? So things go smoothly. Okay, so in some cases, Zoom asks you to, on the mobiles especially, so it's better if you create an account. But there is an option, there's a setting the teacher can use on their account so that people can just log in without, join the meeting without actually logging in, without having an account. But again, I think some meetings, some parent meetings or anything possible, or showing that you're doing your best, we're doing our best, and they should too, might make things go more smoothly. But yeah, Zoom actually works with just a link. You give people a link, they click on it, and they can join the meeting. But it's a bit, but you have to check the settings. You have to prepare this a bit. I'll show you tomorrow. Okay. Good. I think I already mentioned some of these. The weird bar you can see in the middle is one of my lightest days at work, when I have just 20-25 tabs open. Very bad idea for online teaching. So yeah, what can we do now? We have to, and we should, and we don't really have a choice. Oh, 2 minutes left. I'm sorry. So we have to keep learning, and I'll show you in a moment where. I'll send you the presentation and the recording via email, so you'll also have access to the slides. If you didn't receive an email in the very beginning, register again and make sure the address is typed correctly, that there are no spelling mistakes. Okay, so what can we do? Keep learning. Testing, like you're saying, you're testing with a teacher friend, good idea. Double the time for planning. I'm not saying it's easy. I can't remember what I've done apart from working, preparing, studying in the last 2 weeks. Staying organized, don't do like I do. Anticipate problems and think of possible solutions. And one more thing. I had to remember 100 times a day to breathe lately. And it might happen to many people who go online and they have a lot of work. So we're new at this. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be perfect even in a traditional classroom. We just have to do our best at the current time. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to talk about your anxiety. It's okay to talk to your students about their anxiety, which is something I haven't done yet. And there's a GIF here, which is a very, very useful GIF. It's like a moving picture. Wait, I'll show it to you. I think you can see this. So it's just a picture, but give it a minute and it will help you receive the oxygen levels you need. Breathing is very important. I see you're already writing feedback, and I'm really, really grateful. Okay, so you'll have this link. There's a Breathe app on mobiles. If you're too stressed, take breaks, because I was saying self-care is important. Let me show you. Okay, in terms of self-care, I'm going to skip a bit the slide, but the thing is, you have to be creative. Think of the things you enjoy doing and schedule them. Give them the same importance you give to your classes and to testing tools. And this is what I wanted to show you. This afternoon at 5 p.m. Romanian time, there's a very good webinar delivered. I mean, I hope it's very good, but I know the trainers who are delivering it, and they're true experts in online teaching. So it's for free, and they have 2 others ready for next week, I think, and they're relevant to our context. The Future Learn, remember the resources you ticked? Those were from Teaching English Online, which is a Cambridge English course on Future Learn. And it's active now this month. You can do it for free, but if you want a certificate, you have to pay for it. But if you want the information, and it's really, really good. It's got sections on how to plan a reading, a listening, a speaking lessons, and so on and so forth. It doesn't take a lot of time. Okay, another thing that I did, but this one is paid, is the International House Certificate in Online Tutoring. Now, this will prepare you more for asynchronous learning. How to design, how to manage a forum, how to talk to students, where to get them. You'll also be testing all sorts of platforms. It's somewhere under £500, so it's not that cheap. But as you can see, there are free options. There are other free courses. And I shared here the thing that helped me learn about online teaching first, which was volunteering. So when I started volunteering, all I had to do was teach 1 hour per week with someone who had just a mobile, a very unstable connection, a very difficult life, and I had to adapt a lot. But that thing prepared me for, and I didn't know it then, but it prepared me for today. It was really, really helpful. So when you have time, I'm not saying now because we're super busy, but you can also consider this. By volunteering, you connect with other teachers, with like-minded people, and with some really motivated students. And you get to practice. You get to practice because with technology, that's how we learn. And one thing I wanted to say is that if you work in a state school, like in our case, even if we had trained people on online teaching, so many of us were familiar with Zoom and so on, we still had 2 people from 3D who sent us tutorials, who advised us, who entered on optimized our devices, and so on. So again, we don't have to be good with technology, but schools and the system, the educational system itself, like the institutions, should provide the same support these guys offered to us, like step-by-step guidance, and it was amazing. It made our life
Trebuie să vă trați distanța.
unbearable.
Deci, nu puteți să mă întrebați nimic, nu știu nimic. Întrebați pe cine trebuie, că nu pe mine. Eu nu sunt de aici.
Okay, sorry. So that's what I'm saying. Don't panic. We don't have to know everything. We have to keep trying. If it doesn't work, try again. And I'm quite confident. I trust that English teachers are the kind of people who can adapt and can cope with challenge. And if you have time and you want to, and you think it's useful, tomorrow, 10 a.m., we have 1 hour and a half. There will be me, but there will be other speakers too. We'll be talking about Zoom, Google Classroom, and platforms, and test them together. It's longer because it's more interactive. And on Sunday, we are talking about online resources and activities and yeah, that's what we've prepared so far. And we're going to think of more for the near future. But as you can imagine, we're all busy teachers. So thank you, everyone. I look forward to reading the chat. I'm going to save it, save the document, and I'm going to adapt everything you've written and maybe share with you everything you wrote, and it might help our colleagues. Okay, in a moment. So that's it from my side. I'm sorry if I got interrupted. It was my cat. You couldn't see it, but she was here. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing, for being here, and have a good day.